Hello and welcome to the One Take Show. My name is Kaustubh Srivastava and today I bring to you a wonderful episode. Today I'm in conversation with Mr. Robert Hanna. Robert is the founder and MD of Kisoon and Carr. Kisoon and Carr provides various legal recruitment facilities to major law firms not just in UK but abroad as well. He also helps a lot of legal professionals with their career moves. He's also the host of a wonderful podcast called Legally Speaking, available on every major streaming platform. In this episode, Robert is going to talk about the various aspects surrounding recruitment. How can we craft our career to make it into a successful legal career? How can we become suitable candidates for various law firms? And how can we adapt to the up and coming changes? If you like this episode, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feedbacks, make sure you reach out to me. I would absolutely love that. Hence, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's jump right into the conversation with Robert Hanna right here on the One Take Show. Hello, Robert. Welcome to the One Take Show. I am so excited to have you on this podcast for one reason that I myself am a huge fan of your work. I'm a huge fan of Legally Speaking podcast. I'm a huge fan of what you're trying to send out to the various millions of people who benefit from your work, from benefit from all the knowledge that you disseminate. So thank you so much for taking time off your very busy schedule to sit down with me for this podcast.
My absolute pleasure, Kostu. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here. And without people like you supporting us and getting behind us, we wouldn't be where we are. So thank you very much to you. And yeah, it's great to be here and looking forward to our chat.
Well, same here, Robert. Before we get into the major segment of our conversation where we talk about multiple things that you've been doing, I would love to listen a little bit about your journey. What inspired you to move towards law, especially when it comes to the various engagements that you've had? You've helped a lot of legal professionals, recruitments and everything. A little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so I myself have always been in the recruitment sector. So I started in recruitment actually quite interestingly in the 2008 financial crisis. So that was really when I started my recruitment career, and that was in a non-legally focused recruitment business. I started in a FTSE 250 business. I then exited that and went to a boutique business, helped scale that business, and then set up Kisoon Carr once I had sort of 7 or 8 years experience of recruitment. Why I chose law was my grandfather ran a very successful law firm in the United Kingdom, which was one of the most prominent law firms during the 1950s. And so that really sparked my passion for wanting to use my recruitment skill set and bring it to the legal sector. And that's where the Carr side of Kisoon Carr, my grandfather is called Peter Carr, and it was Rich and Carr Solicitors. So we really do kind of want to emulate his success with all of my team in terms of building a strong brand that adds value to the legal sector. So that kind of talks through my recruitment journey and how and why I set up Kisoon Carr in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would love to know a little bit about your podcast before we move ahead with Kisoon Carr. Your podcast is very interesting. I think one of the most important discoveries that I've made in this space of podcast, where I get to learn about such brilliant episodes, brilliant speakers, great conversations. A little bit about what is the principle behind your podcast and what exactly do you intend on conveying through your podcast to your listeners?
Yeah, so they're actually interlinked, Kisoon Carr and the Legally Speaking podcast, because the legal recruitment sector, I believe, is changing, and as is every recruitment sector, and it's becoming more of thought leadership, content creation, and extra value add on terms of just offering job opportunities to prospective candidates in the field. So we believe we want to grow with our legal audience, and that's right from legal student right the way up to the top of partner, general counsel, whatever it might be. And so we I guess launched the Legally Speaking podcast at the back end of last year, and fast forward just 6 months, and we've been overwhelmed by the level of positive responses we've had. You know, we're in the Apple top few hundred business podcasts globally for careers, and you're right, we've been really fortunate in terms of getting on a number of kind of fantastic guests, from managing partners of big US law firms out in Miami, New York, that have had such inspirational stories, through to Shay Rowbottom, who you've noticed was featured in Forbes, who's really disrupting the LinkedIn platform. And why do we do it? It's it's simple. We want to be able to say to everyone who's part of the Kisoon Carr community, we can't communicate with you daily, but we want to keep offering value to you, content to you, keep you engaged, keep you thought of in terms of, if you're a lawyer or you're a young legal professional now, or you're a student and you want to know about inspirational stories, and you want to know about, well, how did that individual break? How did that person get the break? How did they get a training contract? How did they go from a training contract to setting up their law firm? But also it's authentic. So, it's not straightforward. So they talk about their challenges. They talk about what went wrong. They talk about what they've learned. They've talked about what they feel are going to be the changes in the legal sector and what the challenges ahead would be. So we try and pick really inspirational guests that we believe not many of the other competing podcasts can get. It takes us a lot of hard work behind the scenes to get some of our figurehead guests that we have. We've got some Amazon best-selling authors on there. We've got some top YouTubers, globally, who are kind of disrupting the legal world, tons and tons of legal influencers. And we wanted to do that, to have a really striking, powerful podcast that can really help people ask questions that they probably are on their mind on a weekly basis. And so they've got a fine-tuned guest each week that can really add value to them and inspire them. And that's the whole point. We want to inspire people to want to get into the legal sector and learn more about the legal sector and have access to great content.
Well, that is fantastic. I mean, the idea of adding value is, I think, driving this entire the podcast, and is reaching out to so many people. I personally have really benefited from that. I have also tried to learn from your style of conversation and the questions that you emulate. So I'm also learning from your podcast. But the kind of value that Kisun.Kar adds when it comes to the field of recruitment, you have helped a lot of legal aspirants, you've helped a lot of legal law students, a lot of legal professionals on multiple stages. This only begs the question that how do you recognize the essential set of skills or the essential prerequisites for a successful legal career?
So we listen to our clients firstly. So, we are speaking to law firms day in, day out about what they're trying to achieve, what their strategy is, how they're trying to get their strategies implemented. So we do a lot of consulting to law firms around talent solutions, how they can improve their retention, how they can actually increase their diversity inclusion initiatives, and everything else around that. So we really are kind of seen as trusted advisors as well as recruiters. And then once we've understood what our clients want in terms of skill sets, we can obviously communicate that to the next generation of candidates in terms of what they're looking for. So, but the first point is we listen to our clients. That's the first thing. And then we go out and communicate to our candidates, right, well, these are the top skill sets that you are going to need to be a successful lawyer. So I think if I was to kind of look at some of the things for the next generation of lawyers, you have to be able to prepare and embrace legal tech. You have to have a more entrepreneurial thinking mindset. You have to have a willingness to build a personal brand. You have to have a willingness to stay intellectually curious. You have to have a willingness to have mentors that can improve your technical legal skill set. You have to embrace all of the new things that are happening to you and going on around the world, as well as obviously doing the fundamental stuff that was gone years by: good attention to detail, hard working, all of the things you would expect a good lawyer to have in terms of commercial awareness as well. All of those are fundamentally important, but the next generation of lawyers need to bring ideas and be more entrepreneurially thinking as well.
Right, that's a very unique thought. I would like to clarify, I would request you to please clarify on one point, which is very interesting. You mentioned that you approach your clients, which are usually law firms, who then convey certain requirements that they see as essential skills in their potential candidates. Could you highlight in general, what is the trend right now? What are these essential skills that are now being looked forward to by the law firms, or is there any change that you're observing that is happening in this field?
Well, obviously at the moment we're in lockdown, so COVID. In terms of law firms, I would say actually the bulk of what we're doing is actually consulting them around how they can retain their existing legal professionals, trainees, and keep kind of job satisfaction and all those things nice and high. But I think in terms of general skill sets that they look for, I think there's a few things that a good lawyer needs to be. They're looking for good drafting capability. That is something where at any good level you need to have good written communication skills. So I think good communications, good drafting capabilities. As mentioned, intellectually curious. I think also you need to have looking for sort of people who have gone above and beyond. So how can you add value to the law firm? They're looking for people who, if they're going to be future partners or future leaders within the law firm, how could they potentially business develop? How could they bring additional value? Are they doing their own podcast like you? Are they being proactive? Are they part of the society?
Right.
Are they part of these bits and pieces? So they're looking for natural networking skills in addition to, lots of technical skill sets. So of course you should always be really trying to finesse in your understanding of the law and reading of the law and understanding of all the kind of intricacies that go in with that. Yes, but that should be a given, because that's what every lawyer has been doing for generations gone past. It's like, what are you doing to go above and beyond to add value to the law firm? Be that from, like I said, networking, a value add, an entrepreneurial thinking mindset. So there's some of the things that law firms are really, really looking for generally.
Right.
And they're looking for ideas and suggestions. They're saying, okay, if you've got some suggestions or some ideas, bring them to the law firm. We'll encourage them, we'll look at them, we'll review them, and some of them will probably take them on.
Right. That's very important. You mentioned networking as one of the essential characteristics that the law firms look forward to in their candidates. And obviously, networking is an essential skill. But I believe you practice such a niche area, as in you help the candidates, you help the law firms, and you are in the middle of the networking, if I must say. Then you must also know how exactly, what are the essentials of successful networking, or what are the skills that any good person who's trying to approach networking should have. So maybe you can tell us a little about networking.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in networking on the whole, but there's in terms of if you're not used to networking, or you're quite you're quite new to it, people don't underestimate the value of online networking. LinkedIn is a wonderful platform for engagement. So actually the best way of networking is producing your own content, and that's authentic content. Have an inch wide, mile deep vertical that you want to comment on within your particular market, and that will drive engagement to you. But if you're trying to network and you see maybe a partner in a law firm that's producing content on LinkedIn, or maybe they've published a transaction that they've just closed out that's a headline deal, or maybe it's a litigation lawyer partner who's just closed a massive dispute or whatever, great way of networking is actually commenting, engaging, driving a conversation with those particular decision makers, because you're getting noticed. And actually, if you've got an opinion or a debate, LinkedIn really encourages people to have a discussion, a debate about lots of topics, issues at the moment. So I see that as a new way of natural networking in terms of the online forum. Other things, of course, you can do is you can join lots of legal societies, like-minded legal professionals. You can, of course, seek out mentors that can kind of I do a lot of mentoring myself and coaching to people in terms of how they can improve their networking skills. The thing is, it has to be consistent. You have to have a willingness to want to kind of improve, a willingness to want to meet and kind of learn from new people. And the other thing people, I think, overlook is the value of 360 networking. And what I mean by that is I actually learn so much from people maybe beneath me or more junior than me in terms of maybe what it might be title-wise or skill set, but that doesn't matter. Everyone can learn or pick up some skill set or some knowledge or some value from anybody. So have a very open mind. Don't just think you need to target partners in law firms or associates in law firms or current trainees. There may be some other fellow law graduates, law students who have got some wonderful ideas or suggestions or could help you. So treat networking as a 360, build out a 360 networking model, and that will really, really help you in terms of developing. And of course, you can go to kind of offline networking events and everything else, but webinars, get yourself on, easy to follow up after a webinar, look who's on the webinar list. You can easily write to them, write to the host, be proactive. The biggest thing is you've got to be proactive. The more you put in is the more you get out. The only reason the Legally Speaking podcast is where it is today is because we've had to work exceptionally hard to get those guests on the show, and we've had to go out and network with them, we've had to engage with them, and that's what it takes. If you really want to build a brand and be successful, you've got to be proactive.
Well, you talk about LinkedIn, and I would remind all my listeners at this point that Legally Speaking podcast has a wonderful episode where you talk about LinkedIn and entrepreneurship. And this has really given out a very fair amount of an idea as to how LinkedIn can be exploited for not just networking, but also growing a brand, creating your name, because obviously law as a profession looks down upon advertisement, but we all need publicity to create our name. And LinkedIn is a great spot for that. But you are coming up with a great project for LinkedIn and entrepreneurship. I think you can tell our listeners about this.
Yeah, we've got something that we're working on, which will be a webinar coming up on the 15th of July, all being well. We're in final discussions at the moment, and that webinar is very much going to be around the importance of the current generation of lawyers and future generation of lawyers around video content, podcasting, because yes, article writings and people, that's still to a degree okay, but the market is shifting. You know, if you really do want to kind of stand out and add value and drive people to your brand, you've got to be kind of engaging, and you've got to have authentic content. So we're going to be talking about the value of video content done in the right way for yourself as a lawyer and your potential future law firm or current law firm. So that's something I'm really, really excited about. It's cutting edge, and you'll see it a little bit now creeping in, but it's going to be the future. And obviously the legal sector, a lot of people are perhaps a little bit risk averse, not sure. It has to be absolutely perfect. You know, I worry that people won't think I'm an amazing lawyer if I say something slightly out. Don't worry, you know, people want to buy from authentic people that are trying to share and add value to people. So I'd encourage people to come out of their shells and just go for it. And that's the premise of the that webinar, which I'm really, really excited about.
Well, I believe anyone who listens to this podcast also comes across your posts on LinkedIn will be really excited about that webinar, because it really makes sense. Times like this is just opening up a lot of opportunities, especially on platforms like LinkedIn. Well, this brings me to a very interesting aspect of my conversation, because this is a very selfish request on my part. When I ask you that you've helped a lot of law students and legal aspirants to identify the niche area of their practice, to look forward to in their potential employers, and look for potential law firms which will suit their environment, their personalities, and their approach, and their ambitions. How exactly do you go about it? Like, how can a legal aspirant look forward to the various possibilities and pick, okay, maybe this is the right option for me, or okay, this is where I want to go?
Yeah, well, I think, again, they have to be proactive and talk to people like us, because, as I say, we can connect them. Maybe if they want to go and get a training contract with X law firm, Y law firm, the likelihood is we will know somebody in that law firm that would be happy to have a half an hour virtual coffee or physical face-to-face coffee if we get back to the new normal, and tell them what it's all about. So I think that the main thing is, it comes back to the networking point of view and being proactive and researching. There is so much information online now that there's no excuse really for not researching, and you know, with all the various legal publications and rankings and everything out there, there's so much information online that you can get a hell of a lot of a good feeling from that, and then you can network off that as well. So I would encourage people to not get lazy, but speaking to people like us that are in the market day in, day out, and we can tell them, if you're looking for a particular US law firm, or if you're looking for a boutique law firm, or if you're looking for maybe a law firm that specializes in media, or you're looking for a law firm that specializes, whatever it might be, then definitely talk to us, because we can talk to you on a bespoke level about what you need to be focusing on, and who you need to be speaking to, and who you need to be kind of, you know, engaging discussions with to upskill yourself. That's exactly the stuff I've been encouraging people to do.
Right. That's very interesting and important, because with the changing times, we are seeing a lot of change in the entire industry, and this is also making a lot of legal aspirants a little anxious when it comes to how exactly the employment is going to change, the industry is going to change, the commercial value is going to change, and stuff like that. What exactly, in your opinion, do you see a potential change, or what exactly is going to happen in future when it comes to the employers looking forward to in their future candidates, or how can the candidates adopt to the coming changes and become a little more versatile in these environments? Yeah. So maybe a little bit about that.
I think there's going to be a big rise in the dispersed law firm model, and what I mean by that is, you know, lawyers, and this whole pandemic has taught people that maybe they do want to have a slightly better work-life balance. You know, historically, the legal professional has said, you know, you have to stay till 2-3 a.m. if you're a transactional lawyer on a large dispute in the office, and you know, that maybe doesn't sound so appealing to the next generation of lawyers. You know, they want to enjoy the law, they want to get well remunerated for the law, but they'd also like to try and have a life outside of the law. And I think historically the legal sector has maybe been a little bit behind in terms of offering that work-life balance. So the dispersed law firm model, I think we're seeing a lot of people actually going for that because it offers them the opportunity to build their own practice. It highly incentivizes people to get a lot more upside from actually being in that model rather than the traditional political and all the politics that may go out in the larger law firm space. And I do think there's going to be a lot more of a need for more of an entrepreneurial kind of skill and flair required from lawyers. And as I say, embracing legal technology just has to be a given moving forwards. And I think some big law firms though will change, and they will offer a bit more agile working and all of those things. And the other thing that's going to be really, really important is wellness, mental health, and actually culture. So I think, again, people want to work in a happy environment where they feel they're supported. They feel like it's okay to talk about mental health. They feel like it's okay that if they're not having such a great day, they can talk to somebody and they're going to be supported. So I think law firms that really care for their associates and their lawyers and genuinely care and have safeguard measures and processes and policies in place will do very, very well. Because I think the kind of churning out people, just charging billable hours, getting associates on there, that won't work anymore in the future. I think people won't want that. It will alienate people and they will look at other things. The other thing that will happen due to the legal sector kind of emerging is it's not just traditional legal roles in law firms that will merge. Legal design, legal process, all of these kind of new initiatives, legal tech, as I keep reference to, is going to present so many new additional opportunities for people that's going to be quite exciting. There's going to be different avenues to look at and explore from a very innovative and forward-thinking perspective. So it's a very exciting time for the next generation of lawyers because it's going to look very, very different with AI encroaching and everything else that's involved.
Right. First of all, thank you so much for bringing up the mental health part. We all know that you're an advocate for mental health and how this entire pandemic is now actually bringing up the question of how exactly the employers take care of the mental health issues for the associates or the future candidates. And I believe, yes, you're right. The excitement is there when it comes to the future changes and the kind of developments that are happening. Well, thank you so much, Robert. I would like to close this conversation by asking you my one last question. I have just seen your post on LinkedIn. How happy do you feel with Liverpool winning the Premier League?
Yes, so anyone who knows me well, I'm a really big Liverpool fan, and I've got a lot of friends that are Chelsea, Man United, and I've had years and years of stick. So I've had 30 years of her. I must say I'm absolutely delighted. It's rather unique times that we've won the Premier League. We actually had David Jones on the Legally Speaking podcast a few years back, who's a few weeks back rather, who's obviously the Sky Sports presenter, and we were chatting on the Legally Speaking podcast about whether it happened, whether it wouldn't happen. So I'm so glad we managed to finish the season. Absolutely ecstatic, and it just shows there actually is an underlying tone I did put in that LinkedIn video as well, which is very true. Your own career, the legal journey, whatever it is you choose to do, it's not going to happen overnight. Sometimes you have to be patient. You're going to have a lot of knockbacks. You're going to have a lot of rejection. You're going to have a lot of people that probably say no to you, or you fail. That's completely fine. Just do not give up. Keep going, and you will get the end goal in the end. So to answer your question, delighted.
Perhaps we all need a mentor like Klopp, and maybe we all can start succeeding in our careers. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Robert, for this beautiful, enlightening conversation that we have had. Do you have any closing remarks for our listeners?
No, I'd just like to say thank you ever so much for the opportunity. I'm really a big fan of what you're doing and trying to help people. And I'm really loving this legal online community that's been brought together, I think even more so as a result of COVID-19, because all we're trying to do is help and add value to the next generation, current generation of people. So no, I'd just like to say thank you to you. I think what you're doing is fantastic. Keep it up. And thank you for all your support for our Legally Speaking podcast and Consume-Car. We'll continue to work as hard as we can to keep producing content that we think is going to add value. And to all of your listeners, just go get it. There are opportunities out there. Have the right mindset, right people around you, and anything is possible.
Well, thank you so much, Robert. I think I will also live up to each and every word that you've just mentioned. I will also work hard enough to someday maybe we will once again collaborate on a much larger scale, and I will somehow try to live up to the benchmark that Legally Speaking podcast has set for anyone who tries to enter this industry. But thank you so much for this opportunity.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Robert.